Hi guys, and welcome back to my corner of the internet and YouTubes, and I am here today to talk about the 7 books I read in the month of February. This is not my second time, but my third time recording this video, because the first time, where my cats were behaving and no planes were flying overhead and everything was going fine, the audio didn't record at all. The second time I recorded this video, I didn't record the video. I didn't hit record. So this is the third time. So if I'm going through this very quickly, it is because this is the third time I've discussed this with y'all. So let's just jump into it. The last video I posted, I did discuss the books that I wanted to read at the beginning of this year. And a billion years ago, if you remember, I also stated that I cannot do TBRs. I am a mood reader through and through. So the books I wanted to read are still sitting on my shelf. They did not get read, except for one of those books or one of those series, which I DNF to the series for now, and that is Harry Potter. So the first book I read in the month of February and DNF to the series for now, I'll get into it, is The Prisoner of Azkaban. And I appreciated and got invested into the world of Harry Potter immediately from the get-go. I live in Florida. I've been to I lived in Florida. I've been to Universal. I've been to the Wizarding World. I've seen imagery from the movies. So I was there. I was fully invested in the story and the characters and the world building. Their characters I'm immediately in love with. I was taken in because it's a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be, and it was just okay. I'm here for this. I'm here for the relationship building. I'm here for Hermione. I'm here for the Weasleys. I'm not here for Harry. I don't like Harry that much, but I'm invested. The reason I put this book series down is because, one, I don't like school settings, but since that's what this whole world is, I was expecting that, and I was like grinning and bearing it. But the other reason is that I cannot handle reading another page about Quidditch. I just couldn't. One, he can't lose, which takes the thrill out of it for me as a reader. Like, he gets injured and he still wins. There's all these things against him and he still wins. And I understand the point of that, but unless it's by some incredibly overwhelming external force, his team can't lose. Like, if he's not playing, then they can't lose. And that just does something for me that makes me just not interested. And that's the equivalent to me as pod racing in Star Wars in episode 1. Like, I understand the point of it. I fully understand the point of it, but I want it done. Like, I want it discussed and then over with. I don't need an hour of pod racing, and I don't need 57 million chapters about Quidditch. I don't need it. I don't want it. I got the point. Thank you. Let's move on. No. If I read anything else about Quidditch, I was going to lose it. However, all the plot twists and everything, I thought were genius. I'm super invested in Hermione. I'm super invested in the Weasleys. They're characters that I just love. Even the crying ghost in the bathroom, whose name I can't remember, it'll be in the comments. I'm sure someone will be like, how dare you? I do love some of the characters, but if I just read one more thing about Quidditch, I was going to lose my damn mind. So I put down Harry Potter after The Prisoner of Azkaban. I'll get to it later, like way later in the year, hopefully. I'm not DNFing the series forever, but I need a break. So, and that leads to my second book of February. I stared at my shelves and I wanted to get as far away from the Wizarding World as I could. And so I pulled this off of my shelves as a joke. There's a TikTok about that. Like, somebody's like, I read this as a joke. And bam, I read this not only as a joke, like to myself, but just to get away from whatever mood Harry Potter was leaving me in. So I was like, this is the exact opposite. This is what I'm gonna read, and this is what I read. This has been sitting on my bookshelf for 2 years, and I purchased it on a whim. And I read it this time as just a time-killing, palate-cleansing joke. And sorry, we're on low battery. As a palate-cleansing joke. And ma'am, I was not giggling. I do not read smut. It's not like a moral thing. It's just I don't read smut. It's not something I generally pick up. Do I read smut now? Because I'm telling you, after... Like, we got thrown in hard. Like, immediately, like, you start reading this book, you're immediately, like, thrown into this world. Like, it's a violent, like, bam. Like you're right in there. Not immediately to Smut, but there's no like coaxing into this book. You are just, and when she meets this alien for the first time also, it is just, there's no easing into anything in this book. You are just thrown into this world immediately. Let me tell you, before I even finished this book, I picked up the second one. So I guess I read Smut now. I have not started this one, but this is a 21 book series, I think, and I am invested. So ladies, if you read Smut, there's a reason this is popular. I guess I read Smut now, because I'm gonna finish the series. I already know it. There we go. I already know I'm gonna finish the series. This is Smart Guy. He is 20 years old. He does get grumpy. We let him get grumpy. If he wants to meow and growl at his little brother, we let him. It's totally fine. But that is the second book I read in the month of February. If you're not offended easily by smut and by morally gray males and by scenes of sexual violence, I do recommend. So at the same time I was reading that, I was reading Atomic Habits. Just because every month I like to read a nonfiction, either a self-help or a history or something along those lines. And this month it was Atomic Habits. And I do recommend it if you're into that sort of thing. I know a lot of people watching this will not be into that sort of thing, but I did read that and it actually gave me a lot of little bits of information to put into effect in my life that I actually have been, like, I didn't just read the book and just carry on. No, I read the book and I implemented some of the tools that it gave me into my life to help me build, develop, and break bad habits and build good ones. I do recommend it if you need a little help motivating yourself to improve your life. So I'm not going to get too into that because I know not a lot of people care about the nonfiction, but I did read Atomic Habits. I do recommend it. I do think on the self-help scale, there is a reason it is a bestseller. And there's a reason a bunch of people have read it. So I do recommend that. On the same note, I also read The Courage to Be Disliked. And this book by me had some courage to be disliked because I couldn't pay attention to what it was trying to teach me because I didn't like the format the book was written in. I think if the book was formatted in a different way, I would have liked it more. But the way it was written is a student, a young male student was having a discussion with a philosophy professor, and it was just a casual conversation. It was a conversation. It wasn't a lesson or anything, but I just didn't like the back and forth structure between the two of them. I don't like Adlerian philosophy. The book itself says, the young boy in the book is like, this is really nihilistic, and the professor's like, no, this isn't nihilistic. The book is very nihilistic. I am not. I'm a little more hopeful, as depressed as I am. But I think it shrugged off a lot of things about mental illness and trauma. I don't agree with a lot of the principles in the book, and I don't like the format it was written in. So I didn't really take anything away from that. So The Courage to Be Disliked, not something I would recommend, especially if you have any trauma, because it basically says if you have PTSD, it's your fault. So it's just, I'm not a big fan of this book and the message it sent. It wasn't for me, not only some of the messages it conveyed, but also just the format in which it was written annoyed me more than anything else. The format annoyed me more than the content. So that one was the fourth book I took in the month of February. And I picked up, like everybody else, the third book in Crescent City, but I didn't read that. No. I read the first book because I want that fresh in my memory before I pick up the third. I know everybody's already read the third by now, but I'm taking this one in again for the first time so I could have it fresh in my mind. And towards the end, it was like I was reading it for the first time again. I was still as emotional and still as tense and still as upset, and I still laughed with the vacuum cleaner. If you know, you know. I still do feel the same way about the characters, and I know where things are going now. So reading it a second time makes me want to move through the world more. I'm not a fan of urban fantasy whatsoever, but the only reason I read this initially was because I know that the world of Sarah J Maas is all connected. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to push through this. Like, no, I wound up really enjoying this, even though I'm not a fan of urban fantasy, and I can't wait to read book 2, reread book 2, and then get into book 3. But I am going to need a little bit of a palate cleanser because I'm reading a lot of books where everybody dies right now. So I'm probably going to need something to make me laugh. I don't know what that's going to be yet. I don't even want to read smut. Like I need something cheerful after I finish the book I'm reading right now. The next book I read, speaking of being a downer, was The Virgin Suicides. And this is a modern classic book. It's on everybody's Instagram right now. I don't know if they're actually reading it. But since the whole coquette is trend, the whole coquette vibe is trending right now, aesthetic is trending right now, this book is for somehow trending also. You know what you're getting into just by the title. The title is what the book is about. And for me, it's very slow, but it's very impactful. Like I got through it quickly, but it does read very slow. Since you're seeing everything through these boys' eyes, you're not really getting to know the girls. You're not getting really a sense of who they are, which is one of the many points of the book. Lux kind of gives me Manic Pixie Dream Girl vibes, and I've always hated the Manic Pixie Dream Girl because I just feel like she's just a person to develop the males more, and I feel like that's a lot of what this book has to do, along with like social commentary and what it means if you just try to keep young girls down and suppress them. There's a lot of messages in this book that you really have to dig into. I think there could be probably a whole course on the meaning and intentions of this book, or maybe this guy was just bored and he just wrote all this down. But it is very impactful. If you're patient and you just like literary fiction, this is a book you should read. Especially if you're a woman. Actually, no, just anybody should read this book since it is from the perspective of the males. I do appreciate it. It will be staying on my shelf. That's not a book I'm going to be getting rid of. But I'm just, like, I need a happy book because after that, I decided that I'm clearing out my shelves and I want to either read books and get rid of them or read books and continue. And another book that I DNF'd many, many years ago because I was sick of dystopian worlds is Red Rising. And that is the last book that I read in the month of February. And I initially DNF'd this book because I was sick of school settings when it came out, is when I tried reading it and I DNF'd it. And I was sick of dystopians. And when the book got to the point where it was getting to school is when I DNF'd it because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Rereading it again, this is not a typical school setting. If you've read it, then you know there's no like, oh, we're going to potions classes now, and they're like, no, this is violent. There's nothing but violence in the book. This is very like Lord of the Flies in space, only not Lord of the Flies whatsoever because the concept is different, but it's very just aggressive. There was something happened towards the end that I was just about to get really upset with the main character, and I didn't get upset with the main character. There were characters I got attached to that just died. I'm invested in this story now. I've already downloaded Golden Sun onto my Kindle because even though I do think I'm going to finish the series through, I don't know if I'll buy physical copies of them just because I do have limited shelf space, but I will read through the series. I've already started book 2. I'm on the second chapter, I think. I'm fully invested in this series. So I do recommend Red Rising. If a million years ago you DNF'd it for the same reasons I did, it is not your typical dystopia. It does have Hunger Games vibes, but I think it goes on a complete, Hunger Vibes goes this way and Red Rising goes another way. So it goes in 2 totally different directions, and I like the direction this is going more than Hunger Games, but not the same thing whatsoever. And the school vibe really is just a stepping stone. It's not in a school setting whatsoever. So those are the 7, I was about to say 4, those are the 7 books I read in the month of February. I do need a palate cleanser because I'm reading some books right now and I was just like, okay, well, let me start this book and someone died in that book. Let me start this book, someone died in that book. Let me start this book, 883 people died in that book. So I need a little bit of a palate cleanser before I start something else. But a good reading month so far in February. I hope you all will join me next time and just kind of keep me in check for the rest of the year as I try to get through the rest of the books I have. You can see a little tail right here. But I do recommend 99% of, no, not 99, I do recommend the majority of the books I read in February if you were ever interested in reading any of those. I am way behind on the reading trends right now because I have taken essentially a year off of reading, which shame on me, I won't be doing that this year. But I hope you will join me next month because I already have some goodies on my, I don't want to say TBR, but I have some goodies bedside that I am going to get through this month that I've already started. And I hope you will join me next time. And thank you for hanging out with me and my sleepy senior citizen cat. I'll see you next time, and bye guys.